Tonight, the night of the dead. It is only from midnight tonight, the first midnight in November, until the sunrise, that you may see the dead come back to perform again those tragedies which had cost them their lives.
Hi, gang. Yeah, had a bit of a mishap. The first section that I was recording kinda didn't have any sound on it. I suspect it was Taz. He must have pulled the plug out on the microphone. He likes to pull and chew on wires, and so we are doing our first Barbara Steele flick here. She was an English actress who did some work in films, but didn't really become a star until she went to Italy, where she made Black Sunday for Mario Bava. After that, she also was in The Pit and the Pendulum for Roger Corman, although she was only in the last act of the film. Then it was back to Italy, where she was in 8½, by Fellini, playing one of the main character's many lovers. And then became her big run of Italian horror, which included The Ghost, The Horrible Dr. Hitchcock, Terror Creatures from the Grave, Nightmare Castle. After that, she went to England, where she made The She-Beast, which was the first film of Michael Reeves, who had a very short directorial career. Sadly, he had a lot of emotional and problems which he tried to overcome with substances. And after he made The Sorcerers with Boris Karloff, and then The Witchfinder General with Vincent Price, his substance abuse kind of did him in. Right in the middle of pre-production of The Oblong Box, which then got, I believe, Gordon Hessler as the director. She also made The Crimson Cult, which featured both Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee. Some of her 70s work included Shivers, which was, I believe, the first feature of David Cronenberg, and Piranha, which was an early Joe Dante film. After this and The Howling, he would then make Gremlins for Spielberg, and that took him on a different career path with much higher budgeted films. Some of her 80s work includes a lot of TV, especially the reboot of Dark Shadows, where she took over Grayson Hall's character from the original show, and of course the Dan Curtis miniseries Winds of War and War and Remembrance, which were adaptations of Herman Wouk novels. The director here is Antonio Margaretti, very prolific Italian director. He, of course, worked in all the main genres of the 60s, including Peplum with Hercules Prince of Evil. Oh, Prisoner of Evil. Hercules Prisoner of Evil. The sci-fi spy film Operation Goldman. And, of course, the spaghetti westerns like Stranger and The Gunfighter. He also did quite a bit of science fiction, including Assignment Outer Space, Battle of the Worlds with Claude Rains, Wild Wild Planet with Franco Nero, War Between the Planets, and War of the Planets. Some of his other gothic horror included Horror Castle, the aforementioned Long Hair of Death, and Web of the Spider, which was a color remake of this film, and had the interesting casting of Klaus Kinski as Edgar Allan Poe in it. But Kinski being Kinski was Kinski with a mustache instead of Edgar Allan Poe. Some of his later work included Killer Fish, which, pardon me, I have to sneeze. Killer Fish, which had a pretty good cast in it. You had Lee Majors, Margot Hemingway, Karen Black, and James Franciscus, who was in his Italian phase at that point. He also did Cannibals in the Streets, which was not a zombie movie. It starred John Saxon as a Vietnam War vet who had been exposed to an experimental chemical and was turning him and the other survivors from his squad into flesh eaters. Some of his later work included Yor, Hunter from the Future with Reb Brown, and Alien from the Deep, which really didn't feature an alien. It's one of those you gotta see it to believe it. It's basically a monster created in a volcano by nuclear waste. We open our film with England in 1900s, or 1800s, 19th century, with Alan Foster, who was a journalist, and he's trying to get an interview with a very prestigious author.
I recently read that story of yours, Mr. Poe. It's fiction, but hearing you narrate it, I begin to believe it could be true. Fascinating.
Yeah, I kind of gave that one away when talking about the remake. This one at least looks like Edgar Allan Poe, as opposed to Kinski, who, even with a mustache, is just Klaus Kinski with a mustache. Anyways, sitting with Poe is the Lord Sir Blackwood. They're in England. Poe's visiting. And the three of them get to discussing, because Poe is morbid and thinks he doesn't have much longer to be on this plane of existence. They start talking about death, life after death. Is it possible? Which then leads to Blackwood saying he has a castle that he cannot neither rent nor sell because it's haunted. Everyone that's ever stayed there has died. And on this one specific night, basically, technically not Halloween, but it is midnight, November 1st. So technically it's still Halloween night, technically. Until 6 in the morning, the ghosts will return, act out their deaths. And then he makes a bet with Mr. Foster, one that he's made many times before, but no one's ever won.
I'll bet £100 sterling on the theory that you, sir, cannot spend a single night in my castle in Providence.
Why? Do you believe that I might run away from the place?
No. You'd remain there. Of all those who have agreed to take up my wager, not one has ever lived to remain.
Seems he does this every year, and he's yet to have to pay it. Well, Foster would like to take the bet, but he's a journalist. He doesn't have £100 sterling that he can just toss away like that. I mean, if they made the bet for 10, he might be able to do it. And so they make the bet for 10. But he wants that interview with Poe. And Poe, being morbid and curious, decides that he'll go along with them to the castle. It takes about 2 hours. And he can do the interview on the way. So they do. And once there, Blackwood unlocks the front gate and tells Foster he'll be back at daybreak, and then he and Poe leave. So Foster goes into the main dining room of the castle after exploring a little and sits down to start writing when he finds out the castle is not as abandoned as he had been told.
You're not rugged, it's true.
The old hand from out of camera shot trick gets me every time. So, who is this interloper?
Alan Foster.
My name is Elizabeth.
I wonder, do you think he'd be so nonchalant if it wasn't Barbara Steele he was looking at?
Could be.
Anyways, she says she's not surprised her brother said no one lives here. She's considered dead to the family. She came to the castle to be with the man she loved, the gardener, which of course would be frowned upon in society of lords and ladies. So she is no longer of that world. She shows him up to a room for the night, and before any hanky-panky can get involved in, somebody else proves to be living in the castle too.
A steady living as a writer. To be honest, I've been very lonely.
Tonight you won't be so lonely. I don't believe we've met.
That's Julia, another member of the family. And she and Elizabeth have kind of a bit of a fight over Alan. And then both leave. But Elizabeth comes back later for that aforementioned hanky-panky.
Kiss me. Love me. Oh, yes, my dearest. Keep on embracing me. I want to absorb the warmth of your body.
It's kind of a weird way to put it. Warm me with your arms. She also says only you can give me life, so sounds kind of strange. Anyways, as this is the 60s, we get some symbolism to stand in for the act.
Aide-moi à revivre. Revivre avec toi. Oh, je t'aime.
Artsy. I like the way the flames came up like that right at the moment of passion. Climax, as it were. Anyway, postcoital. Alan is talking about taking Elizabeth away from him in the morning, but she says she can't go. She has no place in his world. And while he's laying his head on her chest, cheeky devil, he realizes he's not hearing anything, but she's still talking.
For a moment I thought that your heart had stopped.
My heart isn't beating, Alan. It hasn't beaten for 10 years. I'm dead, Alan. Dead.
Okay, that's a little concerning. She's obviously disturbed in some way, but you know what they say, crazy sex is the best sex, so he's willing to push that aside. If only that jealous gardener lover of hers didn't break in.
Elizabeth!
No! No, Reverend, no! No!
Tis but a scratch.
Well, Alan's not going to stand for that, having his love murdered right in front of him. He happens to have a revolver, and so he chases down the homicidal gardener.
I've I've had worse.
Right there. Shot him in the back. Dirty pool, old man. But that's not quite the end of it for the gardener.
What?
How'd he do that? And when he returns to the bedchamber,
Elizabeth.
yeah, it's almost as if they were never really there. If only Alec could find someone who could explain some of this to him.
Who are you?
I am Dr. Carlos.
Carlos, the famous doctor and scientist?
Yes.
Scientist? Wow. Wonder what he was doing there.
Well, I wanted to try some experiments, and I wasn't allowed to do it.
Experiments, huh? Well, what's your theory behind these experiments?
All human beings. There are three forms of life. The weakest of them is the human body, and the spirit that is indestructible, and the senses. I proved that they're not eternal.
Interesting theory, but how do you prove it? Well, Dr. What is his name? Camus. To prove his theory, he pulls out a dangerously venomous snake and lops its head off. Then after the death throes are done, and it's still, he tells Alan to pick up the head. But when he reaches for it, the snake snaps up, tries to bite him. Still dangerous. Well, yeah, but that's a reptile. They've been known to be able to do that, an instinctive strike, after they've died. It's just muscle contraction. Doesn't prove anything. And we're not talking about reptiles, we're talking about humans. And so the scientist takes him to a ballroom where he sees that Elizabeth is married, but is having a tryst with the gardener. At which point, the doctor gives this ominous statement.
They have a rendezvous with death. They'll keep it, they have to. Every death is repeated tonight.
And just to prove his point, Camus takes him back to that bedchamber where we see what really happened 10 years ago.
Voir personne à côté de toi. Tu comprends, Elisabeth? Elisabeth.
All got wiped out in one fell swoop. The thing about Julia was Julia? Julia. Yeah, Julia. She suffered from what they call unnatural urges, because she starts putting the moves on Elizabeth there after taking out the gardener, and that's why Elizabeth did her in. Anyways, they don't really show what happens to Barbara Steele's character. Apparently she did herself in off screen. Next, Foster is then shown what happened to Dr. Camus, who has an interesting experience when he opens up one of the crypts in the family tomb. or I should say a tomb in the family crypt. Pretty creepy, huh? Well, then when he returns to the library to document this phenomena, we find out that that gardener really gets around this place.
Tis but a scratch.
Right in the back. Oh, but the gardener's not done yet, because you see, there was mention at the pub of a honeymooning couple that died last year. Who the groom was a relative of Lord Blackwood, and they wanted to stay there for their honeymoon. And well, it wasn't quite the wedding night neither one had been hoping for. Twofer. Well, that couple has something to let Foster know.
Tonight it is your turn,
Foster.
Smart man. I'd beat Feet's too. Well, he heads down to the crypt, see if he can get out that way. And Chemist, Julia, and the gardener all confront him with this explanation of what's going on.
Your blood means life a year from now.
Well, that's cryptic. It doesn't explain anything. Maybe Elizabeth can do a better job.
Tell me what they want.
Blood to live. The same blood I must have to give my body one more night of life.
Luckily, she's fallen in love with him. He must be quite something in the bedroom. Stop chewing on that. Anyway, she helps him get out of the crypt, and as they cut through the graveyard to get to the front gate, he asks her to come with him, and she says she can't. And then when they hit a certain spot, she falls to the ground. That's a good effect. Wonder where she was standing, or I should say, laying. Oh, okay, I see, yeah. Well, looks like he's gonna have to beat Feets, because it's not daylight yet. He's still in danger. So he starts booking it for the front gate. Looks like he made it. You couldn't have gone to the road to stop first? Well, the next day, Lord Blackwood and Poe arrive. At first, they think, oh, he survived. But closer examination, he's no longer on this plane of existence. So, following the rules of the game, Blackwood reaches in, takes out Foster's wallet, takes out 10 pounds, puts the wallet back, and they leave. Because, you know, bet's bet. But not all is hopeless. We get a bit of a otherworldly happy ending.
You have stayed with me, Alan.
Yes, Elizabeth.
I'm just an old romantic at heart. Well, fun fact here. This film actually did have nudity. And it was supposed to be Barbara Steele, but she refused. So they went out and hired the first local woman who would agree to go topless. Unfortunately, she was not a brunette, was not as tall as Barbara Steele, and was a more curvaceous body type. Put a wig on her, and they shot her so that you never saw her face. Steele always felt sorry for the actress because she seemed so happy to be able to be on in a movie, even though nobody sees her face, and it's just her boobs. But I like this film. The only thing that recommends the remake is mostly that because it's in the 70s, there's a little more nudity and a little more graphic gore in it than in this one, where 60s they couldn't go too far in Italy. Not like they did in the 70s. Oh, heck, the 80s, you know. When you see some of the zombie films we're going to look at next month. Whew. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, really good film. I like it a lot. Really good creepy setup. A little slow in areas because they like in the beginning when he first gets to the castle, they show him exploring all over. So it's just these long shots of him with a candelabra looking through different rooms. And except for the crypt, which is pretty creepy, it's not that interesting. But it does eat time, so they get a feature length. And they go through the same thing when they're reviewing the scientists' night in the place. Because, again, long shots of him going all over the house. But he does get that creepy scene in the crypt. And not quite as big on the flashback of the ballroom, although you do get some good character dynamics so that you understand later the whole murder thing at that happens afterwards. And some really creepy scenes, like especially the murder scenes between the scientist and the scene of the honeymoon couple getting taken out. There's a nude scene there too, but of course I didn't show that part. It was basically the newlywed wife is undressing for the romantic wedding night that she's been dreaming about since childhood or adolescence. Anyway, yeah, Barbara Steele, of course, is great, as always. She has such a unique features, her cheekbones and everything. Very reminiscent of, or I should say Angelina Jolie is very reminiscent of Barbara Steele's features, especially in the face with the narrow cheeks and everything. And ironically, she's known for her Italian films, but she never dubbed her own voice in. So the only films we saw where she actually got this in the horror genre where we got to hear her natural voice was, of course, her British films and her American work. But most people go to these films, especially Black Sunday, where she played two roles, a vampire witch and her double ancestor. Or no, Barbara Steele plays a countess, who bears a remarkable resemblance to her ancestor, who was a vampire queen. That was an interesting moment where it turns out you don't put a stake through their heart, but you put a steel spike, through their eye. Yeah. I'm sure there's somewhere in some European folklore that goes with that. Yeah, but really good acting. Love the flashback scenes of everybody's death. I like the setup where you get to watch the reenactments that they must do every year, which means when someone else stays next year, because apparently Blackwood is a bit of a sadist or something, because he's always getting somebody to stay there for a bet which he's never had to lose. You know, if they need the blood for one more year of life, if he just left the thing empty for like maybe 5 or 6 years, they'd go away, wouldn't they? Why didn't he do that? Oh, right, because then we wouldn't have a movie. Thank you for that. You're very astute in those areas.
Very funny.
Yeah, fun film. As with all of her Italian films, they're all great. Nightmare Castle, Terror, Creatures from the Grave, they're all good. Yeah, but this one's especially good. This is one of her best, up there with Black Sunday. Yeah, well, of course, you got a good director like Macaretti. So yeah, really like it. Highly recommended. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and as always, stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
I'm sorry, but I have to collect my wager. Now, Reeve.